Alright guys, welcome to another episode of Southern Guns. Thanks for coming back and watching my YouTube channel. For all my new subscribers, hey man, guys, girls, welcome to the show. Alright, if y'all do like what y'all see, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button right there. Alright, so let's go ahead and jump into this thing. Today's episode is really cool. I've been really excited about making this. I've put a lot of work into this particular episode because it is one that's actually near and dear to my heart. All right, let's go ahead and jump into it. Go ahead and grab this thing, let y'all see what I got here. Clearly it's on the table already. The 1903 A3. Go ahead and make sure it's unloaded. Clearly it's unloaded. Man, listen to that action. Watch that. Woo, that sounds good, don't it? Alright, back to the show, okay? Back to the show. So what I have in my hand today is the 1903 A3 Springfield rifle of the 1903 Springfield series of rifles that was around from, clearly, 1903 up until around, I think it was, what, late 40s? Okay, 1945 when the, 1945, somewhere around there, 46 when the M1 Garand finally eventually completely phased out these rifles. So I'm going to talk about this specific rifle. I know I've already turned and checked, make sure the thing was unloaded, but I like the sound of this action, man. This is one smooth action. Ooh, doesn't that sound good? I mean, that's like, oops, lost my grip. Oh, that is one smooth action, isn't it? So, go ahead and let's dive into this video. So what makes the 1903 A3 different than its predecessor? Well, the most noticeable difference is the removal of the rear ladder aperture and moved back to this more, I don't want to say simple aperture because it's not even close to a simple aperture, but it's a more simplified aperture, if that makes sense. So reading into it, there was a couple of reasons that I read into this when I was doing my research into this particular rifle. One, and I'm going to hit all three because I think all three is actually about, all three are similar, they're all three connected in my opinion, though that's just my opinion. The first reason was when the Garand was starting to be manufactured for World War II, they had to gear up for the manufacture of the Garand, the M1 Garand. That's the correct wording, not the M1 Garand, but M1 Garand. Okay, so when they were gearing up for the manufacture of the M1 Garand, they decided, well, hey, let's go ahead and start, we already can tool these up real quick. Let's go ahead and manufacture some 1903s. We're going to go ahead and change it to the 1903 A3. And so rather than the more complex and probably, in my opinion, one of the best rear sight apertures there ever was, they simplified it to moving it back farther and changing it to more of a simplified rear sliding aperture for ease of manufacture. That's one reason. Second reason was because the troops are now learning about the M1 Garand and its rear sight. This rear sight is more within the manual of arms of the M1 Garand. It also has the knob to the side, and unlike the M1 Garand, who has two knobs, this one only has a sliding rear aperture with a peep sight, similar to the Garand. Third reason is moving the sight back also gives you a long sight radius and supposedly better accuracy, even though the original 1903 was a pretty nice rifle. Okay. Now, this particular model, this particular 1903 actually was given to me about a year and a half ago, I think, maybe two. It was given as a Christmas present. It was a D-milled drill rifle that was given as a Christmas present, so it's probably had life somewhere at some high school. So it was given me with the understanding that I told the person who gave it to me that I promised that I would completely rebuild this thing. And with the help of my good friend Levi and Jonathan, we completely rebuilt this thing in my kitchen with a pipe wrench. Yes, That is absolutely true. No joke, true story. I know what everybody's going to say. There ain't no way. Well, yes, there was a way. Where there is a bunch of country people and they got a hammer, there is always a way. So we built this rifle. Hand lapped the lugs. Hand lapped all the lugs on it. It eventually had to remove 5/1000ths of an inch off the barrel, which, by the way, I apologize, I forgot to bring up, this is a 1944 2-groove barrel. Unlike a lot of barrels that may have 4-groove, 6-groove, 8-groove, this is only a 2-groove barrel, again, for ease of manufacturing. It was later found during original studies that a 2-groove barrel was still a accurate enough rifle. We'll get back to that later. During the war, the 1903 A3 filled all the troops' hands from every branch of the military until the M1 Garand could be completely manufactured and given to all the troops. 1903 saw action in both the European theater as well as the Pacific theater, especially in the early parts of the war, until the Garand could supplement and then eventually overtake the 1903 as the primary battle rifle of the United States military. The 1903 A3 was the last standard issue bolt rifle issued to all armed forces of the United States military. The only rifle bolt action that came after this would be the 1903 A4. The only difference between the 1903 A3 and the A4 was an addition of a usually a 2-power, 2.5 power scope. Now, I don't have a lot of experience on that particular platform. The only real difference is the rear sight aperture was removed, a scope base was installed with a fixed power scope installed on it. Now, I'm not going to go too heavily into that because I don't have any of those scopes, and I don't want to try and talk about something I really don't know that much about. So we're just going to stick with the A3. So without going too much into detail on this, one of the things I want to bring up is when the late 1890s, when the U.S. government was replacing the Craig Jorgensen with a new type of rifle, they came out with a 1903. Well, they also wanted to update the caliber. Well, they came out after much trial and error, and I'm not really going to go into that long discussion. They finally decided with the 30 caliber of the year 1906. Clearly the 1903 had already been built. It's already being trialed. Finally they came out with the 30-06 in, of course, 1906. So 30-06 actually originally was chambered in 175 grain bullet. I really don't know the specifics. I think that was the M1 Ball Spec ammo. Now, I don't think there is any more M1 Ball Spec to my knowledge. It might be hidden somewhere in some government warehouse or some museum. Probably never going to get shot. But now they decided to drop it down to 150 grain bullet, and that's where the term M2 Ball Spec come from. So, again, this is a 30 caliber of the year 1906, more commonly known as the 30-06. I also want to bring up, most people trying to talk about, well, it's just a little quick note, most people talk about ARs, you know, talking about high-powered rifles and all that other happy stuff. When you look at a picture of a 30-06 beside a 223 5.56 caliber, I mean, there's no real comparison. When they talk about high power, this is what high power really is. So, back to the rifle now. So we're going to go out, test this rifle, see how well it shoots. That's a big question. I mean, you have a 77-year-old rifle with a 2-groove barrel. The question is how well does this gun really shoot? You know, of course, this is Southern Guns channel. That's what we do. We shoot guns. So the big question is how well does this gun shoot? Well, I've talked about the gun. I've talked about the ammo for the gun. Now we need to go out and see how well they work together. I guess that means I do need to load some ammo. So I guess that's going to be the next course of action. This is taking a really long time. Let's speed things up a little bit. What do y'all think? You want to speed up a little bit? Let's go. Just for comparison, before I go any farther, I want to bring up that's 22 millimeters center to center. So 22 millimeters center to center is exactly 0.8 of an inch. While the gun is not exactly dead center of that dot, that is still a very good group from a barrel that was manufactured in 1944.
And my wife, I could feel her eyes looking right here. She pulled her pants leg up and had boobies written down her socks. Had like nipples in the eyes.
Definitely be low development on. So,
Yeah,
her husband,
Jamie.
so, we
Cool dude. I thought he was going to kill me one day. We were at a match and he was joking around, so just calling him Mr. So we were joking about this online. I said, damn, Jim, I can't believe I didn't get a picture with you and an autograph last time I saw you. We're friends, why would you want that? Nobody would ever believe I met Mr. Melissa. That's kind of cool.
he had one of the longest.
200, Bob. 200. Yeah, we were at a bar together. We were at a Ozaro. Me and him sitting down at a Twisted Barley Brewery in Jasper talking. And he
You got to use a little one and the big one.
So
most laid back person I've ever met.
that group
Hold on a second. Let me bring this down.
is
I've never like asked him about stuff like that.
Short it up, but
You know, I just thought that's inappropriate.
138. That's a 5.4 inch group at 600 yards using iron sights.
so
While they were squatted over when he did that shot.
5.4 inches. That means it's sub MOA at 600 yards. All right, guys. So just got done the range. So what do you think? I'm pretty impressed. Like, I'm actually really surprised at what I just saw. This is some good groups, okay? I want to also make one other thing real quick and some comments, some commentary on that shooting from earlier. That's the first time I have ever shot 600 yards with this rifle. The only other time this rifle was ever shot for groups was by my friend Levi when he was helping me with it. We were setting up the front sight post. We shot it at 200 yards. Levi is a much better shot than I am, by the way. He zeroed this at 200 yards and he shot sub MOA. I am not as good as Levi is by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm a pretty decent shot, just not Levi's level. So after shooting this at 100 yards, I got a pretty good group. You know, if you look at the group size right now, if you look at that picture that should be on the screen, hopefully, it is what, 0.866. That means this rifle is sub MOA at 100 yards. Now I want you to stop and just kind of take that in, just soak on that for a moment, just kind of marinate on that. Most rifles today, by today's standards, should be sub MOA. This rifle is 77 years old, and as I mentioned before, was shot in a kitchen, or I'm sorry, was built in a kitchen. I mentioned earlier about the 2-groove barrel. I want to try and come back and hit on that. That when it was dropped down to a 2-groove barrel, accuracy did not diminish. Clearly that has shown to be the case this time. So that was my 3rd attempt today shooting 600 yards. Reason that was on my 3rd attempt was, you know, as I said earlier, this is more simplified rear aperture versus the ladder sight of the original 1903. So I had to slide this back. I had it slid back at 600 yards. Didn't hit anything. Wasn't showing any hits. I dropped down to 550. I said, okay, this still isn't showing. So I went all the way down and then started counting back up a 3rd time. And I decided if it ain't gonna hit on the 3rd time, I'm gonna stop. So on the 3rd attempt is when I shot a shot group of 5.4 inches at 600 yards. That would mean that it is sub MOA rifle at 600 yards. That's impressive for a number of reasons. One, this barrel was manufactured in February of 1944, and 2, this is a 2-groove barrel versus, you know, 4-groove, 6-groove, 8-groove, whatever it is, whatever manufacturing standards are today. And also, this was built with a pipe wrench in my kitchen. Just throwing that out there again. This also was built with those cheap hand loads that I threw together last night. Really happy with those. All right. So, would I recommend this rifle? Yes, if you are a serious collector or even a serious shooter and a serious collector, either one, this is a must-have for any serious rifleman. This is part of American history. There's not going to be one of these manufactured ever again. And if you're already shooting, you know, Granddaddy's old Remy 700 and 30-06, you know, that's a hunting cartridge there. Not really. That is actually a military cartridge. If you are hunting with the 30-06 and you already have 30-06 ammo, I would highly suggest getting one of these. This has already been proven to be an extremely accurate rifle. So again, thank you for watching my video. If you have not done so already, go ahead and please hit that like and subscribe button right there. And one last thing I would like to do is I want to thank the Civilian Marksmanship Program, Talladega Marksmanship Park, for dealing with me while I shoot my videos and I'm out there videoing all this stuff. They tolerate me, I guess you could say, so big shout out to them and to that person riding the 4-wheeler down the road. So anyways, if you like these videos, please like, comment, subscribe. It really helps me out. And also, if you like these, it's more surplus, well, you know, we call them surplus, some people call them surplus. I'll just say that they are historical rifles of interest. Let me know that I actually have quite a few that I can get my hands on. I have a really interesting handful I can get my hands on. I'd really like to show those off. I have a few friends of mine. Levi specifically is my connoisseur of World War II rifles. We can do a series of these if anybody's interested, and might be able to get a few that most people have never even seen. All right, again, thanks. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe. See y'all later.